Greetings, community. It's Kevin of NCBD Comics, and I'm here to bring you another edition of Kevin's most anticipated reads for New Comic Book Day 1/18/23. Now, we're 3 weeks deep into 3 comic book days into the year, and the list is slowly ramping up. So, how about we jump right into it? Started off, we're going to cruise over to Vault. Vault is bringing us, another barbaric mini, which is starting it off with Hell to Pay, issue number 1. I am a huge fan of Barbaric. Every issue, every series that's been coming out, I've been digging. This is my kind of barbarian tale. Now that we have a companion for our main character of the story, we are slowly developing a world, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. And that's why Barbaric issue number 1, Hell to Pay, is pretty high on my most anticipated reads for tomorrow, New Comic Day 1/18/23. Moving from Barbaric, we're going to cruise over to, well, this one has been a long time in the waiting. You can pronounce it Giga or Giga. Now, Giga has been a story that I was really enjoying. A story about a world that is transitioned from a robotic world to where the robots no longer are alive per se, or they're supposed to be sleeping. Anyways, people now live in them and around them, and it's just been a really wild tale. How the regression, going from a techie world to almost seemingly getting back to Earth, the world style of lifestyle. I don't know. I was really enjoying it. I know Alex Packnadell has been very busy. I don't think that's what's been holding up this story. I have no issue with why. I just lost the feel and the continuity of the tale. I do have recall of what it was about. I just don't have the same feel. However, getting it all done and completed as far as a full series, yeah, I'm really anticipating that happening. Now, more than likely, what I'll end up doing is getting all 4 issues, rereading them, and then try to get back into the feel. So when issue number 5 does arrive, they'll feel like maybe there's some continuity there. So that's what I'm going to go for. As a story, if you've never read it before, well, you're kind of in luck, because tomorrow the last issue drops. You can buy as a trade down the road, or I'm sure you could probably track down all 5 issues. It's not that big of a deal as far as there's no respect on. There wasn't a whole lot of people buying out issues. I'm sure you can track it down. So I do recommend Giga. It was a good story, and the final issue comes out tomorrow, and it is on pretty high of my most anticipated reads for New Comic Day 1/18/23. All right, moving on from Vault. Cruising over to Marvel, we're going to bring you, well, Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue number 4. This is the second to the last issue, and what I really like about this is Taboo is a writer to me that kind of goes against what the normal grain over at Marvel is. I thoroughly enjoy that freshness of a story that it's another Spider-Man story, but told in a very unique way. Now, he did the same thing when it came to, what was that, the oh, my brain went away, the werewolf tale. And so anyways, I'm sorry. My point being is, every time I read anything from Taboo, it has a freshness about it that I thoroughly enjoy. So that's why every time something comes out, in the case of this Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue number 4, it's always anticipated by me to read. So that's why it's up there. So moving on from Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man, we're going to cruise over to Doctor Strange, which is, well, Strange, actually, with Clea in it. Issue number 10. Doctor Strange is looking to come back. I think he's one step closer in this issue. Cool thing is they're going to have it a final battle, meaning Strange and Clea with the cartel. And I think it's all going to kind of come to a head here. I do know that Doctor Strange issue number 1 will be arriving soon. So look forward to, in this issue, something pretty major to happen. So that's why it's really high in my most anticipated reads. Moving out from Strange, issue number 10, we're going to cruise over to Venom, issue number 15. I'm a huge symbiote slut. Not only am I a fan of all the symbiote stuff, but where we arrive now with Venom, and I did get some leak on what's going on, and I do know that Venom per se is starting to regress to his old ways of eating brains, that I'm anticipating what's transitioning with Dylan. Venom is doing his thing, Dylan is doing his thing, and this world between the two is building between them, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So that's why Venom issue number 15 is pretty high up there. Moving out from Marvel, we're going to cruise over to Dynamite and start talking about Cherish once again. Cherish, every issue I always speak about, and here I am again talking about issue number 3. This is a vengeance story where a personal vendetta of an individual who watches her whole family get wiped out by another family and decides to infiltrate that family to take them out from the inside out. It's a cool story. We've heard it done before. I thoroughly enjoy this way it's being told, and the character, she's pretty cool. I really like it. I really like how this story is being told. I really appreciate the art. Dynamite is killing it, and now that we're talking about one Dynamite story, this is going to cruise from Cherish issue number 3 and talk about Gargoyles issue number 2. What I'm really liking about this is, one, it's an all-age story. Two, it's an all-age story that even if you're not familiar with the old Gargoyles, they break you in really quick in the sense of they give you the whole breakdown of the past in one issue of issue number 1. So by the time you get to issue number 2, which issue number 1 was a great setup, you already feel that you're familiar with these characters somewhat. So that's why I'm really looking forward to issue number 2. This is bringing back a lot of nostalgia, and I'm just thoroughly enjoying it. Cruising out from Dynamite, we're going to go talk over at the Image side. Why? Art Brute. Art Brute is a wonderful story. Now, the team that brings you Ice Cream Man and Abrat Haha, they tend to bring some pretty, well, graphically either horror or just chilling stories. Whereas this is a fun adventure, very twisted in its own right, and so far, with only issue number 1, very enjoyable. So that's why issue number 2 is pretty high on my list. I like how they disappeared into the picture and in their old art world of its own. So this is pretty cool. Talking about from Art Brute, we're going to talk about over to the Nightclub issue number 2. Now, I was speaking about Nightclub as one aspect thing and two because this was one that's looking to be. He's all over town trying to solicit for someone to buy this thing and then turn this into a. Well, he would like to see this as a multi-level franchise thing. So Nightclub, I really like the concept. I like how the first issue was delivered. I'm looking forward to issue number 2 and 3 to thoroughly set up what I believe to be a good art. So I like how issue number 1 was delivered, and I'm looking forward to issue number 2. That's Nightclub coming out tomorrow. New Comic Book Day, 1/18/23. All right, now one more from Image, which I really enjoy. I didn't know it was coming out tomorrow. I thought it was the next week, which is What's the Furthest Place from Here, issue number 10. This is such a fun adventure, and at times a little brutal. It's wild to see how this almost Children of the Flies style, or Lord of the Flies, children segregated from the adults type thing world. It's I really like it. It brings me back to some of the reading I used to do when I was younger, and with a new twist that brings it up to date and is just thoroughly enjoyable. So that's why What's the Furthest Place from Here, issue number 10, is pretty high on my list. I think this also completes out this arc. So this will be the second arc. I do recommend getting it as a trade. It is thoroughly enjoyable to read. It's all one read. So I definitely suggest reading it that way. All right, let's cruise out from Image, and we're going to cruise over to Keen Spot. Keen Spot's got my heart. And that also being stated, this one is probably going to be another one of those that I'm just going to enjoy thoroughly. And it's going to be just a regular buy, which is going to be Lucky issue number 1. Comes out tomorrow. Now, Tim Seeley teams up with Tony Rangara. Yeah, Dangara. Yeah, Tony Dangara on this story of, I think she's like a hybrid cat thing. I really don't know. It just looked pretty wild. I remember I pre-ordered it about a month and a half ago, and it just looked interesting to me. Now, as far as the specky thing is concerned, people might be after that virgin holofoil. So look for people kind of, if they really like the story, which I anticipate they will, I think people are going to gravitate towards that virgin holofoil. So look for that to go skyrocketing. That's Tim Seeley's lucky issue number 1 over at King Spot. Cruising out from King Spot, where we're going to talk about, well, our final issue. And you know what that means. That's right. It's going to be our Blue Light special. Now, this week, we're going to talk over at the Dark Horse side of things, and we're going to talk about White Savior issue number 1. This mini series I've been thoroughly anticipating for quite a long time. Let me give you a little bit background on this story, if I may. If you recall, those that may have followed me over from 1-2 Comic Talk, which is a YouTube channel that I do with my son, I also had a show that I was doing at the time that was called Artist Alley. Now, my co-host at the time, well, she had a friend, and I'm sure still does, and his name is Eric Nguyen. Eric Nguyen is the writer, artist of this story, White Savior. She had turned me on to the story long ago, a couple years ago, actually about 2.5. And it was killing me. I was cracking up. It's a story of an individual loser that is pretty hammered all the time, drinks a lot, and is transported back into feudal Japan. Now, give you a little background story of the feudal Japan story. It's supposed to transpire as a great white savior is supposed to come and save them from a very vicious warring time and a very vicious, I think it's a general that comes in and just starts wiping people out. And this guy somehow ends up in the middle of this war. He's just trying to figure out how he got there. The people of the that have this historical tale of this great white savior coming here believe that this is the individual. And oh my God, it gets brutal. It gets funny. It's a comedy horror tale of history and stupidity all wrapped into one. I am so looking forward to this story. There's a floppy. That's why it's my Blue Light special. So I am dying to see this tomorrow. I doubt many people are going to be talking about the story, which is White Savior, issue number 1, it being my Blue Light special for tomorrow, New Comic Book Day, 1/18/23. Appreciate everyone being here. And that's it for me, Entropy. You guys stay well, and I'll see you soon.